So, Steve, tell me a little bit about what drew you to wanting to play your character.
This is so serious. I love your place, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
What brought, the script was really good. And the subject matter, it's based on the financial collapse in 2008. And I knew a little bit about it. Everybody knows a little bit about it. But I hadn't read the book, The Big Short. So I was intrigued by the subject matter. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very relevant right now. And scary as hell, because there's a lot of information that I didn't know before I started digging in. And I think it's important. And I thought the character was interesting and very conflicted. And obviously getting to work with somebody like Adam McKay again. And I've known Adam, boy, since the 80s. We worked at Second City together. So I think that was a big draw, getting a chance to work with him again. I think he's really funny and smart, and he's a great guy. So.
Yeah. Do you feel like now you have, because it is such complicated stuff, and I mean, I didn't know anything about it except for what you read on the headlines. Do you feel like after being in the film and reading the book, do you have like a real full understanding of what happened and how it happened?
Not at all.
No. Okay. Okay, good.
No, I don't know
I'm
anything.
glad you, because I still feel that way.
No, I mean, I had a cursory knowledge before, but I have a better knowledge of it. Part of, I think, what was daunting was just learning the language, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know this world. I didn't grow up in it. I don't know. My dad was an engineer. He wasn't in Wall Street, so it was very foreign to me. So.
It's like playing a doctor and having to use like doctor terms.
Exactly. And not only that, but because Adam is a director that encourages improvisation. So to not only know the lines and understand the concept of what you're saying, but to know a bit more, so when he asks you to improvise, you can do it, or at least can fake it to a certain extent. So yeah, that's what drew you. Let me turn this back on you. What drew you to doing your part?
It wasn't really the role that drew me to it. I mean, I loved the role, and it was a very different character than I've ever played. But to be honest, I wanted to work with Kate Blanchett, and when I knew Todd Haynes was directing it, those two things were enough for me. I wouldn't have even had to read the script. But then on top of that, it is a beautiful script and such a beautiful love story, and it was just really different than anything I had done before. I wanted to show sort of a softer side of myself.
I found in watching it that the script was very efficient, and there wasn't anything extraneous about it. And I personally love films like that they leave something for you to extrapolate from. It doesn't lay everything out easily.
Yeah, one of the things that works so well about the film is sort of the space between the words and all the silences and nuance and subtlety, because it allows for the audience to sort of use their brains a bit more, but also project what they want to onto it. And while it is a love story between two women, it's not really a movie with an agenda. We're not preaching, so it allows people to come in and not come in sort of with their defenses up, as people generally are if you're watching a movie that's sort of trying to shove something down your throat.
Yeah, it didn't seem political in any way.
Not.
It was a love story and a very kind story, a very human sort of story.
Kind of the opposite of your movie.
Yeah. You kind of have to dig to find the humanity in The Big Short. Something I found in watching your performance specifically was that by the end of it, I was, you can hang on people's words in movies. I was hanging on your face. I was like, and I know that sounds odd, but I was watching you, and by the end, because the character you portray, it has such a steady demeanor to her that by the end, I would examine every part of your face in every frame to see where you were going, where the character was going, trying to figure out what was going on inside of you. And
A lot of people in my personal life feel that way.
It was fascinating, though.
What is she thinking?
But
What mood is she in?
But you know, when you've heard, you know, when they say if you really want, I think it's a commercial actually, if you want someone's attention, whisper. You know, to try to break through the cacophony of all this information and everything happening, sometimes it just take it really, really subtle. Alan Arkin would always do that. He would just go under everybody else, and that's what you were drawn into. And I felt like your performance was that way because it was so, it was so nuanced that I was hanging on every moment, and I don't know.
Thank you.
So what do you have to say about that? How did you do that?
I feel really awkward.
Do you get sick of people asking you stuff like that? Like when people say, "How do you prepare?"
Oh, I hate that question.
Well, because what can you say? Like,
Also,
do you have
why
like
do
a
people
pat
want to
answer?
know that? Don't you want to go into a movie and like not know how they did it? To me, that my
Totally agree.
favorite kind of acting to watch is when I watch it and I have no idea how they did it or
Right.
what they were doing. And of course, there's the temptation of wanting to know how they did that, but it's kind of better to not know. And it's so
completely agree.
boring. It's so boring to talk about process and homework and.
I could, and we're done. Because I totally agree with that because it is pulling the curtain back.
Yeah.
I want it to be a discovery. It's why when I was doing The Office, I always politely declined doing the DVD extra where you sit and watch an episode
Yeah.
and the actors weigh in on various
commentary?
moments. Do
I
commentary.
love listening to those though.
But I hated doing it.
Oh, I would never do one, but I would love listening to them.
But see, that's the thing. People want to hear. They want to know.
I know, I'm part of the problem.
See, you're buying into it.
You're part of the solution, I'm part of the problem.
I'm not part of any sort of solution.
Should we talk about your personal life instead? If
You know
don't
what?
want to
I
talk
actually
about
want to
process.
talk about your personal life because I have a bit of information that I've been withholding till we were actually on
Oh.
camera. Did you know that my wife Nancy made out with your uncle when they were at BC?
Which uncle?
He was a hockey player at BC.
Oh.
Yeah, and she said, please tell her this is before he met his eventual wife, and it was
Wow.
just, and that he probably doesn't remember.
If it's the uncle I'm thinking of, which I can't imagine I have more than one uncle who played hockey in college, because that's, you know, not everyone can do that. He's not blood relative.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's still my uncle, but he's not related to my dad or my mom.
Oh, okay.
But wow.
Yeah, I know. It kind of made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to bring him to
resent
your next
you.
premiere.
I resent you because of it.
So what kind of name is Belivet?
It's Czech. It's changed originally.
It's very original.
Well,
And your first name?
Therese.
Therese, not Teresa.
No.
Therese Belivet. That's lovely.
And yours?
Carol.
Carol.
Carell takes place in the 50s.
Yes.
And I thought the movie did a great job of depicting that time period, obviously, with all of the, you know, the sets and the cars and the locations. But in terms of how you approached, did you approach the acting as a period piece itself?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, there was a lot of conversation about that because there's tons of films obviously that were made during that time period, and then there's tons of films that have been made about that time period. And you know, the 50s, the early 50s are quite different than sort of the later years in the 50s. It was, you know, coming right out of the war, and it was a little bit more sort of dirty and gritty, and that was sort of the 50s that Todd wanted to show, sort of a more naturalistic view on that time. And obviously there was a very different style of acting back then. And so it was kind of about walking that fine line. We wanted it to be naturalistic, but I did have to work a lot on my dialect, sort of the way that I spoke, because you know, the way that I'm speaking now is quite modern and jaded, and you know, I'm not using a lot of air. It sounds very, very modern, so it wouldn't have really fit in the world. So we did a lot of work on that, and then, I mean, the rest of it was all Todd. He did all of this research and really shared it with all of us for the months leading up to the shoot. You know, he sent us tons of music, and he made this beautiful visual reference book of all this photography from the early 50s that inspired him for how he wanted the film to look and feel. And so we really knew what world we were stepping into before we even got there, which is really helpful because, you know, you want to be in the same movie as everyone else.
I thought he did a beautiful job. When you're, what is your, again, I'm hesitant to ask a question like this because I don't want it to be a question you hate, but what is your ideal kind of director? Like, how do you like to be directed?
That's a good question, but I don't have really an answer because I'm not talking about process and how much we hate talking about process. I think one of the reasons I hate talking about process is because I don't really have one. It's different for every film. And I feel like if I did have a specific process, it would be a disservice to the film and to the director. I love directors. I worship them. Like, it's why I love acting, is because I get to work with these people. And there isn't one director that I've worked with that's similar to the other, and they all have a different process themselves. So I feel like I need to make myself more open and available to molding to their process. You know, like when I worked with Fincher, he is known to do a lot of takes. And I, you know, worked with him for 2 years straight, pretty much, and then I went right into working with Steven Soderbergh, who does like maybe one take. Sometimes he doesn't even do a full take.
Do you think you'll ever work with somebody good?
I hope so. I keep waiting.
Someday. Someday you'll really step it up and work with
I'm hoping.
a director of some sort of caliber. No, I think I agree.
But I don't prefer one or the other.
No,
they're just really different. And
I
think, God, how boring would it be to have them all be the same?
Yeah, and I think it is sort of a misleading question to say, you know, what is the, because there isn't any perfect one. Like, there's no perfect movie, and it's all, even the, you know, the eccentricities of a director and the things and the places that he or she might push you that make you uncomfortable isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, you might hate it in the moment, but then appreciate it later on.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've had experiences that are more arduous than others.
Yeah.
I've had directors that I really loved personally, but then I like push you so hard in certain directions that you don't know what you were going to find until you get there, and you would have never gotten there unless this person was kind of leading you down that path and sort of opening you up to these new ideas.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best kinds, obviously, when that can happen. But yeah, I've never had a bad experience with a director. I've had bad experiences on films. I've worked on films that I hated working on, but it's never been specifically because of a director. I mean, I've worked with directors where it was like so hard and so challenging, and there were moments when I hated the person and then moments when I loved the person, but I thought they were brilliant, that left me like at the end of it feeling like I didn't know how to act, and I didn't work for a year after that one experience. But looking back on it, it's one of the best experiences I've ever had, and I learned the most about myself from it.
Hey, excuse me. Hi, honey.
The therapist called. You did it again.
There were no cabs. What was I supposed to do?
You're running around like you have to right every wrong
in the world.
Okay.
So angry.
Fine. You know what? I'm a mean guy, and I'm pissed off. You have no idea the kind of crap people are pulling, and everyone's walking around like they're in a damn Enya video. They're all getting screwed, you know. You know what they care about? They care about the ball game. Or they care about what actress just went into rehab.
I think you should try medication.
No, we agreed if it interfered with work.
You hate Wall Street, but maybe it's time to quit.
I love my job.
You hate your job.
I love my job.
You're miserable.
I love my job. I love my job, honey.
Mark.
Cynthia, I'm okay. I really am. Hey. No, my cab. That's my cab. That's my cab. That is my cab.
It's not schmuck.
How did you feel? Like, did you feel pressured or what was your approach to playing your character who is based on a real person? Did you feel any sort of, did that make you feel pressured or responsibility to that person? And was it
Definitely a
helpful?
responsibility. Yeah, I mean, because you feel like you owe that person not necessarily like the closest impersonation that you can do, but to honor their humanity, because it's an odd thing meeting someone and talking to them knowing that you're going to play them.
Yeah.
You feel, I met with this guy in New York, and then he was very nice and very generous with his time, and invited me back to meet his wife and his kids. And he's really smart, and he's brusque, he's sort of abrasive. He's a big heart, and he's very confident. But also just I was struck with how generous he was, that he was allowing me to talk to him. And it's weird because you're talking to this guy and you don't want him to get the sense that you're examining him.
Yeah.
That you're,
or judging, really.
or judging, or just watching his mannerisms and
writing it down.
Yeah, because that's kind of gross and stalkerish, and it feels like a science experiment. And I did feel a responsibility, but I felt like I wanted to get a sense for how he fit into this world and what his...
Well, it's so complicated how he fits into the
It
world. At least
is.
his relationship. I feel like his relationship with the world was so complicated.
Yeah.
That he was so sort of torn about what he does.
Very conflicted about the money he was making versus the way he was making it, and really saw himself as kind of a knight, and he really, I think, as sort of a loner too, that he was fighting against this enormous situation, and was taking it on his own shoulders. And I think it's kind of how he navigates life. But he showed up too. He was there. My first day of
To the shooting?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, were you so nervous?
Yeah, I was nervous.
Did he come a lot, or was it just like one day?
A couple times. He was there my first day of shooting, so I hadn't even really worked out any sort of the bugs of the character, and he was sitting at the monitor. But it was great that he was there, because he immediately was giving me notes. And
No way.
he was giving Adam McKay, the director, notes
Like
too.
what kind of notes?
He was advising Adam in terms of what shots to make, and he's that kind of guy. I mean, he's never been on a set in his life.
Yeah.
But he was taking
Well, he's used to
control
being in charge of the room.
completely. And he's always the smartest person in the room. And if not the smartest, he definitely thinks of himself that way, and thinks of himself as a hero. But it was great that he was there, because it also reaffirmed that demeanor
Yeah.
that I could tap into, that here is this guy who is unapologetic and completely lacking in any sort of fear in any situation. And so it was, again, I saw it as a gift. And it's strange too, because you are basing it on a real person. So any choices that you're making physically are informed by their physicality. So there's this kind of buffer that you have with the director, like, hey, it's not invented. It's this guy. I didn't do it, it's him. So you kind of push it off. I was gonna ask you about, for lack of a better word, chemistry with the people that you're working with.
I feel like we would have it.
I think we would have chemistry.
Is that what you were asking?
Yes, do we have chemistry? No, I was gonna ask.
People always ask that about the chemistry.
Well, I don't even think that's the right word. I feel like there's certain people that I find you just get a rhythm going with. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be best friends off camera, and sometimes it's even better if you don't even know each other that well. But there's a weird symbiotic relationship that happens. I mean, obviously you feel that, and I thought you and Kate were, you were so connected from the first time you see each other in this film, and it's effortless, and it's very, very subtle too.
Yeah, I mean, chemistry is a weird thing. You just, you know, obviously the movie sort of lives and dies by, if we didn't have chemistry, the movie wouldn't have worked. But I didn't really know if we would have chemistry until I saw the film for myself. It was something I was actually kind of nervous about, because you just don't know, and you don't know what the camera's going to see. You can, you know, there's lots of people who've really been in love in real life who have, you know, played lovers on film, and you can't, there's no chemistry.
Right.
But I think one of the reasons me and Kate ended up having really good chemistry on camera is because a lot of the relationship between Carell and Therese was sort of mirroring real life, in that I was in awe of her, and she is this magnetic creature. And so, like, when I was looking at her as Therese, I really felt that way in real life as well. I was watching her every move and sort of, you know, clocking everything, and I think that was part of why it ended up working. Well, what about you with chemistry? I mean, it's predominantly men in your film, but you guys all definitely, you really felt like you had been working together for however many years, and there was a shorthand and a sort of quickness to all of your relationships with the other guys in your office who I loved their dynamic. I thought it was so...
Me too. I think you can attribute that to Adam McKay. He directs in such a way, and he was the same way on his really silly stuff, like when we were doing Anchorman. He creates this environment where anything is fair game, and the way this movie was shot, the camera could sit back in a corner with long lenses, and you never felt it being intrusive in any way. And you really never sensed where the camera was or what the camera was looking at. So I think that helped.
Right.
Because you could be in the middle of what you think is your best take ever, and then realize that the camera is a close-up of somebody writing on a piece of paper. But I think that was great, because you
have to be on your top game.
Exactly. It forces you to just not think about it, and not think about your part of the movie specifically. And I think that helped create that chemistry, because everyone was just letting it fly and throwing caution to the wind. And Adam, again, I think it starts from the top. When you create an environment where everyone feels safe and comfortable and having fun, and it should be enjoyable. I mean, it shouldn't be drudgery. It's fun. We're so lucky to be doing what we're doing, and I think there was even in the more intense moments, there was a joy to what we were doing, and I think that that experience bonded us together and sort of supported that chemistry.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about Todd, is that he made us feel so safe, and like there was no judgment. There was nothing we could have done that he would have thought was stupid or wrong or foolish. And it really does. It creates an atmosphere where if you're not afraid of failing or being wrong, then you're willing to try anything. And it just really, there's so much more possibility that way.
Yeah, I agree. I have a social media question for you.
Oh.
Actors are very curious beasts. What are you curious about, and how has that curiosity changed your life? Go. 5 words or less.
Oh my God, I don't know. I'm actually I'm a compulsive Googler. I Google things constantly that I'm curious about.
You you have an idea in your head and you say...
Yeah, and I'll look it up, and then it'll take me to YouTube, and then I'll find something else that's really interesting, and then I don't even know how I got there.
You just Google it yourself. You just Google your name.
Oh God, no.
All day,
I'm not allowed to Google myself.
And then you Yahoo your name.
Yahoo, please. Come on.
Is Yahoo passé?
I haven't used Yahoo since the early 2000s. Yes, but I don't know what the latest thing. I mean, after I saw The Big Short, I went home and was on a Googling rampage, because I wanted to understand it. And
that is the hope. I think that's the hope of that movie.
Yeah.
That's Adam. That's our director's hope, is that it could get people to Google it and or Yahoo it and understand,
Yeah.
gain a greater understanding. Just start a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely Googled that when I got home. But then I also Google really random, really random weird stuff.
I think everybody does.
Yeah.
Well, just to have that information at the,
I mean, if someone saw your search history, I think I would.
oh, someone's looking at it right now. It's out there.
So
Your search
embarrassing.
history is definitely out there.
And all the medical questions that I ask on there, it's like, my foot hurts. What does this mean?
Why is one ear bigger than the other? Does that mean
It
I'm
totally
going to have
is, by the way. Or
Oh,
at
you-
least like one is.
Everyone's ears. That's, I was talking about myself. Everyone's.
Did you know that your ears and your nose never stop growing?
That's such good news for
I
me.
learned that on
I am
Google.
so, especially the nose thing. I'm so excited about. I hear after you die, your nose grows for another 50 years.
I'm sure it does.
Thanks for watching Actors on Actors. Click to the left to watch our conversation with Bryan Cranston and Jason Segel. Click to the right to watch our full conversation with Samuel L. Jackson and Michael Keaton. And don't forget to subscribe to Variety's channel.